Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, for a bit of background, I live with my grandparents in a city 5 hours away from my mom. I try to see my mom, stepdad and babysister every so often, but since her birth in early spring 2019, I've only been able to see her 3 times. The first 2 times were normal encounters, but the most recent one was probably the scariest moment of my life. I'd driven out to go see my family. I planned to spend a week in July with them and everything went well. From the trip out to me getting acquainted with my old room. The next morning I had offered to take Jane into the city they live close to. I had some shopping to do and I thought the new sights would do her good. As parents of a newborn baby, my parents agreed instantly. I took Jane in her car seat to the city's mall and we went inside. After about 2 hours I was getting hungry and so was she. My mom was already training her on bottles, so in my backpack I stuck a few just in case. She was getting fussy, so I needed to find a place fast. And I finally decided on a cheaper but decent restaurant the mall had to offer. She was hungry now, so I pulled the bottle out while ordering. A family of 4 was sitting across from me, 2 young girls and a parent. The girls were grinning and constantly turning to look and point at my sister, who was now fast asleep in her car seat. I didn't think much of it because lots of the kids get excited when they see babies, but the girls went from grinning to whining. I saw the mom stand up and walk over to me with the fakest smile I have ever seen. She says with a sarcastic friendly voice,
"Hi, you have a beautiful baby and I was just wondering if my 2 girls could come say hello."
She's asleep right now. If she wakes up, they certainly can.
"But she might sleep for a while. They just want to come say hi. They just want to come see her and they won't wake her up. They will keep up with her whining if you don't let them."
You know what? Sure. But please make sure they are quiet enough to keep her asleep. I was getting very anxious about now. The entitled mother walked back to her table and bent over to talk to her girls, who seconds later both had the biggest smiles stretched across their faces. The girls jumped up and came over to my table, asking me the basic questions like, how old is she and what's her name, and I kinda relaxed. I've always been scared that something would have happened to her, and the girls seemed pretty sweet. The mom came over and she and I started to talk when I noticed one of the girls try to reach into the seat and unbuckle my sister. "Hey hun, please don't unbuckle her."
"But why? I want to hold her. She's so cute."
"I don't really want you to hold her. This isn't a secure space and I don't feel comfortable with your ability to hold her safely. I'm sorry." The girl kind of understood and gave me an
"Oh, okay,"
before her mom stepped in. I knew in the back of my mind I was screwed the second I heard her speak.
"Excuse me, young man. My baby is perfectly capable of holding your baby. How dare you assume she can't?"
"I'm sorry, but I have always been squeamish of people holding her." The entitled mother now raising her voice a bit so the tables near us are looking.
"My girls are perfectly capable of holding babies. How dare you assume they can't?"
Now she turns to her daughter.
"Hey sweetie, let me help you get her out."
Her kids now go from whining to laughing and getting closer to her seat, which was a red flag for me. The woman was almost trying to keep me down so her kids could do what they wanted, but I was not having any of it. I now stand up and assert myself. I'm a pretty big guy, I'm 6'4", and I'm quite muscular for a teenage kid. I play rugby for a very high-tier team and we had a game before I came here so my arms were slightly bruised. This is important later. The woman looks up at me and doesn't back down. She's also kind of strong and she refuses to move. Her kids were going to hold a baby and that was final. She gets right into my face and I'm trying to get by her. With the way my table was positioned, I was basically pinned to the corner between a poos and my table. I'd ask her to move and she refused.
"I am not leaving until my precious little girl gets to hold your baby. She'll be gentle, just watch."
Both daughters are happy as can be while pawing at Jane, trying to get her out of the car seat. This woman helps her kid unbuckle my sister, and her child lifts the now crying baby into her arms. Have you ever seen a kid hold a cat under the armpits and the body slouches in? That's how she was holding my sister. Put her down. You're holding her wrong. I had raised my voice now. My anxiety about the situation was through the roof.
Mommy, look! Ah, she's so cute. I want a baby.
Both kids keep gushing over her, and I now notice the entitled kid is holding her in the same position, but her arms are getting shaky. My sister's cries are getting even louder, and the staff are on their way now. Two hosts, who I assumed was the manager, were on their way from the hostess stand. The mom is still keeping me cornered, and her kids are now passing my sister to each other. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Her daughter's arms gave out, and she dropped my sister onto the ground of the restaurant. I saw red, and the girls both looked at each other so scared, realizing what had just happened. The mom also covered her mouth and tried to step out of my way, almost innocently. Are you kidding me, you stupid witch? I told you your kids had no right to touch my sister. I shoved the woman into the wall, hard enough to get her out of my way, and she bangs her head. I drove down to grab the wailing baby who now sounds to be in intense pain. I told you not to grab her. The mom is sitting against the wall crying out in pain, and the girls are sobbing. All I saw was red, and I was full on ready to destroy this woman for letting her kids hurt my sister. The hostess and the manager rushed to my side and immediately called an ambulance and the police. I was sitting there feeling absolutely helpless as my baby sister wailed and cried in the most pained cry I have ever heard. The mother now screaming out saying I attacked her, and her children now by her side sobbing. She went on about how I'd given her a concussion and how she was assaulted. Other customers have now gotten up to see the commotion, and a few of them are just watching. When the ambulance arrived, my little sister was having trouble breathing. She was rushed away and into the ambulance, and the police came in and took statements and resolved the situation. I was taken out of the restaurant because I kept trying to attack this woman. When I'd calmed down, the police took my statement, and apparently, this woman tried to say that I punched her because she was trying to help me and tried to attack her kids, causing them to drop my baby, which apparently I told him to hold in the first place because I was busy, and that she was trying to protect my baby from my parents because of the bruises on my arms. The police asked to see my arms, and I showed the bruises, explaining they were from rugby. I gave my statement, and the police took statements from the bystanders. My parents were called, and when they arrived, they were filled in. My mom was enraged. She also tried attacking the woman only to be held back by the cops. We for sure pressed charges, and my parents and I were given permissions to leave to go to the hospital. I am not sure what happened after, but I know the mom got arrested and the kids were taken home by the dad, who the entire time was just sitting at their table casually. Our lawyer, she currently thinking she could get a total of 6 charges for this. Hopefully she's going to get jail time. We got to the hospital and Jane was relatively okay. She had a broken leg and a problem with her breathing because of her lung experiencing some issues. I am so glad to this day nothing worse happened, and I'm waiting to hear the phone call that this witch gets locked behind bars. I now don't let anyone touch or go near Jane, and whenever I go out with her, I always have someone else with me. I am just glad the cops held me and my mom back, or we would have had a few charges. The update is finally here. We had gone to court a few weeks ago, but I have forgotten to post it, sorry. The case was pretty open and shut. Mixed with all the evidence and the stories from witnesses all lining up, the entitled parent had no leg to stand on. The judge quickly made a decision and she was found guilty of child abuse, assault, attempted kidnapping, and endangering a child. Social services had gotten involved and is doing an investigation into her household, and she's now looking at jail time. Her actions were completely screwed, and I'm very glad she's been punished for it. My little sister has made a full recovery with no issues of long-term damage seen. She's able to walk and act completely normal. And as for me, it's been troubling to take her out into public, but I have learned to be more assertive and to fight for me and my family. Best of wishes to all of you. This happened years ago. I had just started working as an independent electrician. One day I received a call from a new customer. He was one of those people that flips homes in lower income neighborhoods. I will call him Todd, but honestly I've forgotten what his name is. Todd asked me to meet him at a vacant house he recently bought to give him an estimate for a full rewiring job. He was 30 minutes late, so I was already unimpressed with him. Upon entering the house, which was right after a rainstorm had passed through, we found an inch of water covering the hardwood floors. There was water pouring out of small holes in the columns on the front porch. Everything was soaked, and instead of showing me around, Todd called his business partner and brother and spent the next 20 minutes cussing him for not fixing the roof. I am standing around and listening to his man-baby rage on full display. The whole time I'm thinking there is no way I'm going to work for this guy. His fuse was way too short and his anger was out of hand. I gave him a price which admittedly was the I don't want to do this job price, and didn't hear back from him. Until months later, Todd called me later that year. He explained that he had found an electrician from 3 states away and had paid the electrician with ceramic tiles instead of cash. The problem now? Well, he needed an inspection from the city electrical inspector. I agreed to meet the inspector for him, which I will bill him for. I went back to the house about 20 minutes before the inspector showed up and saw numerous issues. When the inspector arrived, we walked through together. Every issue I saw, the inspector also saw. He pointed them out, and every time, I agreed with him that the work was not up to code. This inspector kept looking at me with a puzzled expression. After we did a complete walkthrough, I finally explained to the inspector that I did not do any of the work and was hired to get him to pass the inspection. He asked me if I thought he should, and I told him, absolutely not. I got paid for my time. I got paid to repair all the violations, and I formed a strong relationship with that inspector, who was always lenient with me on all my future jobs. I rented a little house from a man who owned a painting business. The power was off when we came to see the property, but he assured us everything worked. He even put in a contract. The place was dirty and poorly maintained, so we negotiated the security deposit down to $300. Turns out the heat/air didn't work, along with a refrigerator and dishwasher. I asked him to have someone look at them. He cursed me up and down. He called me and left threatening voicemails. He would show up unannounced and let himself in. On one of the visits, I showed him that the crawl space was flooded and was a breeding ground for thousands if not millions of cockroaches and mosquitoes that would come up through the floor vents. There was absolutely no ductwork, even though he claimed the heat/air worked fine. He accused me of causing the flood myself, even though I showed him the source was a pipe that had rusted through. He refused to address any problems and said, "If you don't like it, then you can't move. You can't pay for a bargain and accept to live in a Ritz." This man was a terrible man in general. Once he hired someone off Craigslist to cut down a tree in the rental property's yard. The man worked literally all day for the agreed $150, cut up and hauled out the tree, and he came back that evening just standing in the yard, and I asked if I could help, and he said he was waiting for the owner to get paid. The owner kept replying saying he was on the way but never showed up. Our neighbor told us he had punched the previous renter in the face and refused to pay him for a day's work for his company. He had bragged about renting to illegal immigrants and not having to do anything because they wouldn't sue. We had a newborn baby, so we called his bluff and agreed to find a new place to live. We left the home in much better shape than we found it. He said he would mail us a security deposit, but never did. He dodged my phone calls until one day he called to say, "You aren't getting it back. You broke the contract when you left early, so go screw yourself." I was really upset because we were new parents and had very little money. That $300 was a big deal to us, and a drop in the pocket for this man. He owned an upscale painting business and had 15 rental properties. The next week I was online leaving negative reviews for his business when I clicked the link and I noticed his website's domain had just lapsed. I knew what I had to do. I immediately bought it, then created a homepage with contact information for his biggest competitor. I emailed him from his old domain asking him if he wanted to buy the website for $320. The cost of the security deposit plus the price I paid for the domain. He was irate. He started calling my work, threatening to sue my employer. He even contacted my parents and threatened to sue them too. He left a bunch of threatening voicemails for me saying he was going to beat me up and he knows where I live, and that he has my social security number. I received emails from several review sites asking if I was trying to update the contact information for the business. He must have used his old domain's email as his contact email. I didn't want to get in trouble for impersonating his business, so I did not respond. The contact information was never changed. I received a few emails from potential clients. I called him and told him about the painting job requests. I gave him the contact information for one of the clients to prove I wasn't just making it up. I told him it was the last time I was going to do that for him, and suggested he buy the website back in order to not miss out on any other jobs. He told me he was taking me to court. I told him I had recorded his threatening phone calls and saved all his texts and voicemails. He said he was going to sue me for illegally recording him. Not illegal in my state. I said I look forward to seeing you in court, where I counter-sue and press charges for harassing me. And I hung up. He called me back and cussed me out for hanging up on him. I said, "Call me back when you can speak respectfully to me," and hung up again. We repeated this about 5 times. Each time he was more angry, until the last time he spoke respectfully and explained he hadn't gotten a single job in months. I suggested he focus more on creating a website to find business, and he lost it and cussed me out again. 6 months passed and he still hadn't bought the website from me. I got a call from him begging me to do the right thing and give him the website back. I told him the current price was $350. 6 months later I got another phone call. I told him the current price is $380. Eventually he texted me to say, "I went out of business. I hope you're happy." I responded, "I hear having a website really helps your business. $380 and it's yours." He told me what a terrible person I am. I responded, "Maybe if you stop trying to rip people off, your end wouldn't be so bad." And that was the last time I ever heard from him. The major business listing sites confirmed his business did indeed close. I renewed the domain for another 2 years just in case he was bluffing. A few months later I drove by his office to see if it was still there. It was empty with a "for rent" sign posted. I never got that $300 back and spent money on domain registrations, but it was totally worth it. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.